So join me for the second part of Conal Creedon's chat for the writer's mindset, where we chat about more writing, advice and tips, and Conal shares 6 things you need to do to be a writer. And there's a real treat at the end of the second part, so make sure you watch to the end. Conal, why do you write? Do you think that you need that certain type of mindset to be a writer?
Well, do you know, no. I think two things. I think first of all, I think to be a writer, people who say I'd love to be a writer, well then see you won't actually be one if you want to be one. You know what I mean? Because I think it's an active thing. Nothing can stop you writing. It's a pen and paper, and this isn't just me being old school. I still write pen and paper. You know, if I'm on a train or anything. So if you can say I want to be a filmmaker, because it takes a lot of education, a lot of training, equipment. You can't just make a film in isolation. You need writing is total. Writing is like fishing without a fishing rod. Anybody can do it, you know. And so I think the desire to write is very different from being a writer. So anybody can write if they write. I think anybody who wants to write probably can't write because they already want it, you know. And they might want it's like me wanting to write in my holidays. It's me sort of like creating a perception of what I will be doing rather than to be doing it. So I think absolutely anybody can write. You know, and I think if you're finding things like getting an agent, like in other words, if you're going down the road of finding agents first and publishers and all that, well, then you're into something totally different than just the need to write, which is, you know, it's two totally, one is sort of an industry driven career thing, which is very important. The other is an activity that you want to do, that you just do. So that's it. Often, like people say to me, like I get asked, right? Because I do, like up in UCC and stuff, I sometimes talk to students and things, right? And they'd often say, like first year students, like, what can you do to be a writer? And I always say, I probably get this wrong out, there's 6 things, right? First one, and if you do these,
I'm getting my pen, hang on. Go.
So if you do these 6 things, right? I think it's 6, I can't remember. You will be the best writer, right? And this is all you have to do. Number 1 is listen to your mother and father, right? Number 2, don't drink. Number 3, don't smoke. Number 4, don't do drugs. Number 5, be good to small furry animals. And number 6 is to write. And the point is that I got about 3 of them wrong in my life, right? I can't tell which ones, right? But I got about 3 of those wrong. But there's certainly one I got really badly wrong, right? But the point I'm making is that that's true for everything. If you want to be the best maker, get the first 5 and then do that thing. If you want to be the best violin maker, do that 5. And I think at the end of the day, it's about, if you want to be the best is a very personal thing, right? It's not a competitive thing, really. It's just to do that thing, and the other things help, you know. Focus.
And I think it's you know, my question was there, is there any advice you can give to new emerging writers that you wish someone had told you?
Don't drink. Don't do drugs.
You've just answered it.
And be kind to small furry animals. Absolutely.
And I think it's about connecting with the right people too, isn't it, Conal? You know, and that's the beauty of social media, if you use it the right way.
I think the connecting thing is really, it doesn't come into my little world, right? And it doesn't, like the people I know, like the Paddy Galvins and the amount of people out there who are just doing it and doing great stuff, you know. And I think the other thing, and I certainly would know people as well who actively engage and connect with, and you know, they you know, they would know reviewers and they would know publishers and all that, and that's totally commendable, but it wouldn't be my thing, really. In fact, and I can see how that would lead to what's perceived to be very successful, right? But for me personally, if I had to commit to writing 4 or 5 books, that would be a retrograde step for me, really.
Yeah.
Because I think the fact that I'm doing collection short stories now and almost ready to go, but I could very easily in the next 2 weeks decide, because I'm half thinking of it, just ditching that and writing this one-woman play that's been in my mind for the last 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And if you go down the other road of other people, you relying on other people and other people relying on you, it's very hard to extricate yourself from that situation, because you find that you've created in a funny way you've engaged with an industry which is very
different. There's no pressure on you when you don't have to. Exactly like what you say. You can kind of go from another piece.
There's definitely pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure. Nobody else really cares whether I have a book of short stories or a one-person play, except for if I commit to, we'll say, a director or an actor that I'll have this play ready for next March. Then there's a sense of, so there are the pressures. They're your own pressures. If I have a designer working on this book, and if I ditch it on him, he's got a lot of work into it so far, and then he's saying, "So you're going to come back to me in 8 years' time, is it?"
Yeah.
So,
and is this next book that you're doing? Is it a sequel to Begotten, Not Made, or is it something different? Can you say anything?
No, I can. It's actually called. It's not a sequel, but I guess everything, the documentaries and the short stories, and I think if you put them all together into one big bag, right? It basically is almost like, in a funny way, almost like the same story. It's almost like a big autobiography, even though it's all fiction.
Yeah.
The documentaries aren't, but it's sort of just putting back the layers on basically this little world.
Yeah.
And not intentionally, but I've just realized that that's sort of where it's going. That that I'm finding new stuff in my head that's coming out, and yeah. So I suppose, you know, the stuff I do wouldn't be a follow-on, for example, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Begotten, Not Made too. But what you would find is that it's all sort of, I suppose it's like a band, really. You know, they very rarely go from, we say, techno to ballads to chanos. You know,
it's a similar genre, really, isn't it?
Creating a world of my own, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And are you reading anything at the moment? Have you got 3 books beside your table that you read? Do you have time to read?
I tell you, I have a zapper next to the bed because I have a TV in the bedroom. I don't have a TV here, right? But I suppose the 3 books that I would probably go with most, and I would say definitely by my bed right now, is the Grand Tour of Beira. It's I think came out maybe about 15, 20 years ago, and I just love it. It basically is these 2 people have researched all these people who've passed through Beira over hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
Everybody from Rudyard Kipling to all kinds of people. Wolfe Tone, brilliant stuff with Wolfe Tone. He's out in the bay with the whole French fleet. With the whole French fleet, he's going to land, right? And the weather's atrocious, right? And they're waiting for your man Cock to come in, the French, commander, and he's been lost. And they just realized this was the wrong bay to come into, because there's no natural sort of beach there, right? It's all, and so all the ships are out there. They could have landed into Bantry. There was no real resistance there, right? But they couldn't land. And every night they used to go from ship to ship. And so he is writing sort of his diary. And it's obviously, the man, God bless him, was probably manic depressive at the best of times, because his diary is like, he starts off saying, "This is terrible, we're all going to die, right? We lost 3 ships today, right?" And then he'd say, "Oh, today is great. I went over last night to the other boat, and we were singing, dancing." And he tells a great one. He said, when he went over to the other boat, one of the officers, the French guy, said, "Oh, great news from yesterday," or whatever, right? Or bad news from yesterday. We lost a ship, right? And it was like, what, the ship with all the saddles went down or something, right? But we still had the ship with all the horses, right? And there's all this kind of stuff. And that's very brilliant. And then a whole series of people who passed through Beira, and just their observations of it. I really like that book. The other book then that I really like a lot is, I think I may have mentioned to you before, David Jackson. He's a sort of a poet, performance poet, really, I guess.
Yeah.
And the name is it The Ballad of Here and Now? I think it's the ballad here now, but it's I agree. For me, it works. It's brilliant. It's basically like, and I could be doing him a huge disservice here. I don't really know him very well. I read with him once, but it to me it seems like a huge mushroom trip of an epic, and it's sort of the epic of two characters. One is Anish and Arish, and it's in English, and it's very mystical, and I guess he's sort of a mystical sort of guy, you know. And a bunch of other stuff, you know. I mean, you know, but there'd be two that would be fairly close to me right now.
And I wonder, would you do us all a lovely honour of reading a piece of something for us, would you? Have you got something there?
I have, but I'd be afraid I'd bore you, right? But
even a short paragraph or something, even from Begotten Not Made or something.
But what I have here is, because it's the book, see, there's the crown of thorns in there, right?
Yeah.
Basically, it's on Good Friday, very briefly, right? It's a guy who's living in a bedsit, his life is in shit, like, and he decides that he's facing eviction. He looks around, he realizes all he has is a few easy singles cheese, a small bit of whiskey in a bottle, and 2 hits of acid, right? So he decides not to waste anything. So he eats the cheese, takes the acid, right? And this, you know, bed sits the way they used to be, right?
Yeah.
So he's on the ground floor, and he then decides to take his own life. It's Good Friday, and he sort of realizes the only way to live forever. It's also his birthday, and his name is Pluto, and Pluto obviously is the god of the underworld, as opposed to Jesus, who's the God of heaven, right? And he decides that the only way to live forever, he's thinking about Elvis and Moses and Jesus and all that, is to die, because once you're alive, you're in the process of dying, right? But once you die, if you can make that point of whatever it is, realization, you will live forever in the mind of others. So he takes his life, and Cork has been fairly bad to him, right? This city has destroyed him. The woman he loved just ditched him, and he had very complicated relationships with different women and different children, his own children and other people's children. He sort of half adopted them, and it was just a mess, right? And he was sort of in that last place now, the waiting room for death, a kip of a bedsit, and he takes his life. And then, so the book is basically, his mind is still trippy on the LSD, right? So the book is that journey to heaven with, but it's trippy, right? So he's on the journey to heaven, LSD induced, right? And then eventually he finds heaven. And I suppose ultimately heaven is, he realizes that heaven is actually the same place that drove him to kill himself. Heaven is hell, you know? And so I read his last, this is his vision of heaven. Will I give it a shot?
What's the name of the book again, Conal? It just glitched there a little bit. The Passion, yes, Passion Play. Please, thank you.
So, this book is 20 years old. My God, what? It's 23 years old, maybe, actually. 1999, I think it came out.
Wow.
Anyway, so one of the women that he really loved broke his heart totally, right? Of course, in his trip to heaven, he meets everybody. He doesn't realize they're all dead as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody keeps saying, I thought you were dead. Jeez, I thought you were dead. But they're all dead, right? He doesn't realize he's dead. That's the problem. And so anyway, this is eventually he meets Yvette, and it's like everything is perfect in the world, but he still doesn't know he's dead, right? And then this is it. Yvette knows she's dead, obviously, because everybody is dead in heaven, right? So this is, I take Yvette by the hand, and on we make our way to the brow of Patrick's Hill. There we stop, look back down into the goldfish bowl. We don't turn to salt. Yvette tugs my hand, leads the way. We salt and pepper cellars of the belfries of St. Anne's and the North Cathedral. My eyes embrace the beautiful north side, laid out before us like a kitchen table at Christmas time, cram-packed with dainties and delights. We walk through the knee-high meadow and nestle down into a sheltered hollow. We're sprawled there, barefoot on the grassy ridge above the city, saying nothing. Bolts of pleasure and pain as my memories travel across Brewery Valley, stopping off along the way at the North Monastery, Eason's Hill, Murphy's Stack, and landlocked Powell-Raddy Harbour. Past each laneway, step and steeple, from the Bishop's Palace right over to the dome of City Hall, then all the way back to the spiked towers of Holy Trinity, St. Finbarr's, and the green tops of St. Francis. In the distance, the county hall scrapes clouds, picking up the gold of a dying sun. I gaze out westward, out along the beautiful lead to the Cargrahan Strait. But the sun sends flames of reds and orange and yellow licking high up into the sky. Ballincollig's burning. My city is a royal town, dressed up in crimsons and gold. In the distance, through the mists of time and coal smoke, I hear the cry of an echo boy, the sound of men walking and whistling their way home from work in the red city of Grana Braher. The chimes of an ice cream van across the Spangled Hill. The bells of some cathedral or other, the yelps of children from Roach's stores playing ball along the road. And as I say goodbye to the city of pain, it occurs to me that there is a harmony of movement and colour and sound. Everything is as one. The aromatic blending of Murphy's Brewery, Linehan's Sweet Factory and Donnelly's Bakery. Yvette snuggles into me. This could be heaven, I whisper. Could be, she smiles. Could be. And that's it.
He found his peace in the end.
Well, I know, did he? He found Yvette anyway. That there mightn't be much peace, I'd say.
He seemed to have. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. And on that note, where can people find you, Conal? I know you've got your website and you've everything there.
I don't do this stuff on the website, but I know Waterstones have my stuff, but
yeah.
Invariably, people, like, I actually got messages yesterday from people in the States that they just said, you know, I just picked up blah blah, and Amazon is probably the one where people go, really. You know?
Yeah. For your work, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're on YouTube as well, Irish Town Press, isn't it?
The documentaries will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think there's about 5 of them there, and the other probably small bits and pieces, but the documentaries are sort of all there at the moment, right? And they're basically all stories from, not stories, but sort of insights of, I suppose, life around here, you know?
Yeah.
Some are historical, some are just pure cultural stuff, you know?
Oh, they're wonderful. I've seen them, and I've seen the lovely music as well accompanying them, some of the videos.
I must say, there's one, it's a Christmas one, and it's so, I love it, like, only because they're the shopkeepers from around here, and
yeah.
And see, the funny thing with documentary making, truthfully, it's the camera people make them special, you know? Like, that's what I always say about the writing art, that it's up to you to do it, but if you have a really good camera person, a really good lighting person and sound person, it just looks magical. And I just love the Christmas one, and the Burning of Cork, I think, is they were, the camera people and the sound people were just brilliant in that. And I just find that for me, I can actually sit and enjoy my own documentaries. I never actually read my own books.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's pointless. It's pointless reading the book you wrote yourself, really. It's like, Jesus, I know what's going to happen next. You know? Exactly,
yeah, exactly.
But I watch a documentary because I can see the beauty that other people bring to it.
Yeah.
I think you made a great job of that, because I remember, I can think back to the time of, you know, the decisions and chaos and stuff, and then you say, how did he get from there to there? That's brilliant, you know, and it wouldn't be my doing. It's,
yeah.
You know,
the final piece must be wonderful to watch.
Well, if it works out, I'm sure. If it's not, it's not.
If it doesn't work out, it wouldn't be up there anyway. They're all wonderful. Conal, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Through you know, social media and through LinkedIn, and I'm delighted. It's great when it happens.
It is. It is. It's great to connect. So many thanks for your time again, Conal. And if anyone would like to contact me, I'm across most platforms or on social media, or follow me on YouTube. And see you next time on The Writer's Mindset. Thank you so much, Conal. Take care.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye. Yes.